so we'll say chapter review part 2, and let's take a look at number 22. 8 2/3 is equal to n minus 5/9. Okay. We would classify this and call this kind of a problem a what? Because it has this variable, what would you say? Yeah, equation. All right, so if it were an equation, what's the other word I'm thinking of that starts with O? Opposite. Is there anything about the way this particular problem is written that maybe caused any confusion, or are we past that? Chris, what was it that may have caused some confusion for some people? Maybe not you. Mixed number being our only number on this side, but it doesn't really matter because the action's going to happen where? It's happening on this side anyway. And if we're thinking of our variable n, and we're thinking that as of right now we're subtracting 5/9, and we would think opposite, the opposite would be to do what? Add 5/9. If I add 5/9 here, negative 5/9 plus 5/9 gives me 0. Leaves me with just n. Let's add 5/9 over here, and I'll need, when I add, common, and let's use 9. 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 2 is 6. That stays at a 5. 6 plus 5, 11 over 9. 8 and 11/9 becomes what? 9 2/9. See, 11 over 9 is what we call improper. We can squeeze one more whole out of that. Okay. Africa. You like to look at 24? You want to try 24 in particular? You want to work through 23? All right. 23. It's all fine and good when we go through these problems together and you take notes as you watch me write this stuff up here on the board. You need to get to a point for the test on Thursday where you can look at it, recognize, first of all, what's going on, and then recognize what you have to do to solve the problem. So as we look at this one, 1/6 j is equal to 7. Tell me what is happening right now to j. Sophia. It's being multiplied by 1/6. So if it's being multiplied by 1/6, the opposite is to do what, Sophia? Both sides by 1/6. That will isolate the variable. And if I go right ahead and just write this right after, if I know I'm going to divide by 1/6, I go ahead and I put it there. Which is the second fraction? Which one is the second one? 1/6. Okay, we don't all of a sudden go this way because you've got j over here. You don't go that way and decide you're going to flip the 7. Okay? Because we always call it the second one, but you always flip by what you're dividing by. We had just said the opposite of multiplying by 1/6 was to divide by 1/6, not divide by 7. Therefore, this is the one that will flip. 7 over 1 then times 6 over 1. J would equal 42. The great thing, and maybe also the annoying thing about numbers 22 through 27 is that you could, if you wanted to, plug in your solution and see if it makes sense. Just give it the eye test. 1/6 of 42. If you divided 42 into 6 equal parts, each part would equal 7. Okay? So it's like you get up there and you try to find out what it is you're doing so you can do the opposite. P over 3 is equal to 3 1/4. Okay? Now, we'll ask the same question. What is currently happening to P? Africa. Good. The opposite of dividing by 3 is to what? By, good. Three and 1/4 times 3. When I multiply, everything has to be in fraction form. See, you got a decimal because you didn't want to work with 1/4. You chose to work with, what's 1/4 as a decimal? .25. How many quarters in a dollar, right? 25 cents, 0.25. Let's just keep it the way it is and just make it into a improper. 3 times 4 plus 1 as a fraction. Do we flip? Not when we multiply. So P is equal to 39 over 4. How many times does 4 go into 39, Sophia? 9 gives me 36, so there's 3 left over. Now 9.75 is the same thing as 9 3/4. Okay? But I think if there's a common theme here throughout this chapter where we're using fractions and mixed numbers, you're probably best off to just try to stay with that. What else? Okay. 25? I mean, we can do them all. It's fine. We've got plenty of time. All right. 5/8 x minus 5 is equal to 16. Now, again, we would call this what kind of an equation? Two what? Yeah, two-step, two-part equation, two-step equation. Very good. Because why, Caleb? Because in this particular equation, we've got what's happening? Multiplication and, right. So if we're thinking opposite, for us to solve this, we're going to be using division and addition. The question comes in which order? Still think opposite. Any other time you've had to choose between the order of what operation to do, you had to follow order of operations. Ordinarily, what would always come first? The division or the addition? But because it's opposite day, we're going to add 5 first. (5/8) x now equals 21. Now we can go ahead and say, all right, let's divide both sides by 5/8. Therefore, which one flips? 5/8 to make it 8/5. Anything we can do with the 21 and the 5? No. So 21 times 8, 20 times 8 is 160, plus another 8 should be 168 over 5. What do we do here if we don't automatically recognize how many times 5 goes into 168? Set it up. So we'd say 33, and how many would be left? Sure. Math, I'll have a little more sympathy. And algebra. 26. Two-fifths is equal to 5/10 n plus 2. Anything you recognize in this problem right away before you even get started in the process of trying to solve it? Anything that jumps out to you? Maybe you never noticed it, maybe you never looked for it before. Africa. Like what? Yeah, we can't touch that yet because we've got that 2 over there. Otherwise we might be able to do something with it. It has something to do with the 5/10. Yeah, let's use it. Let's do that. Is it going to change the problem? No. 5/10 is half. So if we can make it a little bit simpler, why not, right? All right, so here's where it gets a little bit different. It's a two-step equation. We've got multiplication and we've got addition. Which one has to get done first? The opposite of addition, which happens to be... All right, so good. We will then subtract 2 from both sides. This is subtracting 2. It doesn't mean you put the 2 when you subtract the 2/5. You have to subtract 2. So what you're working with is that. All right, now think through it. Try to think logically through it real quick. You can set it up, and you can say, okay, 2 minus 2/5 to find the difference, as long as you understand that your answer will be negative. Because if you have only 2/5 and you subtract 2, if you start on your number line at 2/5, somewhere way in between 0 and 1, and you subtract 2 full from the 2/5, you're going to end up in the negative. So we need to borrow. 1 5/5 is the same as 2. 5/5 minus 2/5. 3/5. Negative 1 3/5. Any question there? So now what we have is negative 1 3/5 on this side and 1/2 n over here. Because that was only the first step. Now we're going to finish it. The opposite then of multiplying by half would be to divide by half. So when I do that, it looks like that. Which one will flip? The half. So let's put this into improper fraction. 5 plus 3, negative 8/5, times, after I flip, 2 over 1. Chris? Negative 16 over 5. 5 into 16, 3. Negative 3 and 1/5. Now here, when you look at this, a negative times a positive always gives you the negative. Also applies to when you use it with fractions. Number 27. Raise your hand if you got number 27 wrong. 27 is very similar to 26. Try it right now. Okay, now what I was very pleased about, though, fellas, was the fact that you did this part right initially. You went ahead and you subtracted 1 whole from 7/10. Essentially, if you're subtracting and you have 10 as a denominator, it's basically like saying 7/10 minus how many tenths? 10 tenths. 7 minus 10 is negative 3, right? So negative 3/10 equals 3/8 K, right? How have you got the negative 3/10 part? Yes? Okay. Sophia? No? 7/10 minus 1. What I'm saying here is if you know you have 7/10, 10 or 1 is like saying 10/10. Okay? 7 minus 10 would put you at the negative 3. Now from here, we would say K is being multiplied by 3/8. The opposite would be to divide both sides by 3/8, which would mean we would have to flip the 3/8 and 3 and 3, 4 and 5 would give us negative 4. So it looked good, you just didn't have the right denominator. Yeah, okay. All right. Now, when you get to these on Thursday, you know, I'll give you a heads up. In fact, I'll give you a heads up right now. When you get the test, yes, 26 and 27 will both have negative answers on the test. So your practice test right now, numbers 26 and 27, both gave you negative answers. Same thing, 26 and 27 on the real test. Same ones, same section. The last two in that section will also be very, very similar. Okay. Now, I may make those extra credit, but it would still benefit you to learn how to do them. The second one wasn't as bad once you realized how to do the first one, right? Okay. Anything else in that section? We did all the ones in that section. Okay, that's fine. 28 through 31. Let's do them. Inches, feet, yards, mile. When we go up, we divide. When we go down, we multiply. Remember all that? You've got that somewhere in your notes, hopefully. So if we use that model, 440 yards is equal to how many miles? We start with what we know, which happens to be yards. We go up the staircase, which means we're going to divide. How many yards, then, would be in a mile? Do they give us that information? How do we find it out? Do I know how many feet are in a mile? Right? 5,280 feet in a mile. Can I then take that measurement and convert it to yards? Can I go from feet to yards? Yes. How so? Dividing by how many feet are in a yard? How many feet in a yard? 3. Divide the 5,280 by 3. (1,760) yards equal 1 mile. What happened to what? There seemed to be some confusion here because we know we had to convert the yards to miles, but nobody knew for sure how many yards were in a mile. Because on that chart in your book, they don't tell you that. So what we did, Caleb, was we said, all right, we know that 5,280 feet equal a mile. All I would have to do then is convert these feet to yards. If 5,280 feet are in a mile, I could just convert that 5,280 by dividing by 3 and get 1,760. Now here's the magic number. Now I know how many yards are in a mile. I've got to divide 440 by what? 440 divided by, okay, well, let's take a look. Divide. Might not look like a division problem to you. It might look more like what? That needs to be good. Right away, you can tell they're both divisible by. So now you get 44 and 176. Well, they're chopping it down. 2? You said 11? So 44 divided by 11 is 4. 16. 1 4. What's an 11 right here? 16. Can you what? Yeah. You got what? Well, you corrected your own that day. I think so. Maybe I'm wrong. It was a while ago. 29. Are you done with this or no? All right. We'll give you some time. Go ahead. We'll wait for you. 1. 16 and a half quarts equal how many cups? Quarts to pints. How many pints in a quart, Alex? 2. And I'm going down the staircase. So I'm going to multiply 16 times 2 and get 16 and a half times 2. Sorry. Times 2 is 33. Now I've got 33 pints. I'm going to convert it to cups. How many cups in a pint? 33 times 2. That's the answer. One and 2/3 mile equals how many feet? So again, you visualize that one slide. You should have it already in your notes. Miles are already at the top. You're going to go down to feet. Do you know how many feet are in a mile? 5,280. So if I'm going down, I know how many feet are in a mile. I'm going to multiply 1 and 2/3 times what? Good. So 3, 5 over 3, 5,280 over 1. Well, think about it. If you have knowledge of your divisibility rules, the only thing that you could possibly reduce this by would be 3. Think back. Is 5,280 divisible by 3? We just did it, right? When we found out how many yards, right? What was the answer? 1,000. We did that already. We just did it 5 minutes ago. So now, all you've got to do is multiply 1,760 times 5. 8,800. $31. Three and 2/5 tons is equal to how many pounds? We've got ounces, tons. We're going from tons to pounds. We're going down, which means multiply how many pounds in a ton? So 3 and 2/5 times 2,000. 17 over 5 times 2,000 over 1. 5 and 20 is a 4 and 1, but I've got 2 zeros. 17 times 4 is 68 with the 2 zeros. Okay. Now 32 through 34. More precise measurement. What is it? What was the general rule that we talked about with how do you know which one is probably more precise, Chris? The smaller measurement. 31. So between 6 ounces and 320 pounds, which would be more precise? 6 ounces. 52 miles or 12 feet. 12 feet. 3 pints and 5 quarts. All right. Let's see. Word problems on your test. I think maybe a couple in the front, but the other ones on the back, no. Take out that checkpoint quiz again. Okay. One through 7, 9 through 12. 1 through 4 are equations that deal with adding and subtracting. 5 through 7 are your conversion problems. 9 through 12 are more equations. Okay? So this will be testing exactly what we just went over. So now you have some more problems to kind of test and work through after the review. Okay? That will be due tomorrow. Okay?